Moin, ihr wunderbare Menschen des Interwebs. Ich begrüße euch ganz herzlich zurück zu meinem Let's Play von The Great Ace-Attorney Chronicles. Wir haben endlich die Box hier erhalten von McGilded. So, this is the article in question, is it? The small box deposited with the pawnbroker by Mr. McGilded 2 months ago. And on the night of Mr. Winniebank's murder, the only item on the shelves that was touched by whoever broke into the shop. Quick, quick, let's open it and see what's inside. Good gracious, this is no ordinary box, it seems. Wow, also in truth, I had an inkling that might be the case. It would appear that the box houses a miniature music box movement. Then, is it too much to expect? I think it would be reasonable to assume that it is a device for the playback of this disc, my lord. So, here we have the means to play back Mr. McGilded's disc, deposited at Winniebank's at much the same time. Not strictly correct, my lord. It was not McGilded's disc. It was the disc of his victim in the omnibus. But why, for heaven's sake? Are we to understand that the Brickmaker was trying to sell this music box disc to Mr. McGilded? I believe the answer will become clear if we listen to the music on the disc, my lord. Yes, very well. Let the court now listen to this curious disc at last. Wait, my lord. Good grief, what is the meaning of this, Inspector? The music box and the disc are, well, they are unrelated to the case. No need to spoil this somber atmosphere in the courtroom with some silly bit of music. This disc may very well have motivated the culprit in this case to commit murder. Clearly, there's every chance that it's fundamentally important to understanding what happened. The prosecution has no objection. But no, the piece of evidence is police property now, you can't. Clearly, Scotland Yard has some vested interest here, but it is policy of this prosecutor to leave no avenues unexplored, and you, Inspector, have no jurisdiction here to prevent that from happening. No further delays, please. Play the disc. Das hört sich irgendwie an wie Morsecode, oder? What on earth? That's certainly not what I would call music. No. It's just the same note playing over and over again in an irregular sequence. Mr. Graydon? This really is priceless. After all that, the music box is broken. Broken? It can't be, can it? Es ist nicht broken, das ist hundertprozentig irgendwie Morsecode. Well, obviously, in fact, I wouldn't be surprised if the officer sent to fetch it didn't drop it on the way back to the courtroom. Und er müsste doch verstehen, was da jetzt mit Morsecode gesendet wurde. Weil er ist ja ein Communication Officer. Oder also ein Angestellter. Well, with much regret, I feel the court must accept that this music box offers little in the way of clues. Are you ready to move on, counsel? Come on. Yes, alright. It does sound as though it's completely broken, but is it? Could this music emanating from the music box possibly be a new clue? Clue. Ich glaube ja. I believe that it could be relevant, my lord. Good lord, but how can it be? It's an abomination, counsel. Mere noise. I fail to see how it can have any meaning whatsoever. does sound strange, I agree, but there is one thing bothering me. While Graydon stands there, chortling victoriously, and the inspector beside him has a rather telling expression on his face. It's as if Gregson recognizes the sound, as if he's familiar with it somehow. And that's making him appear extremely on edge. If that's the stance of the defense, my Nipponese friend, answer me this. Just what relevance do you propose this woeful chiming has on this case? It's the defense belief that the sound emanating from this music box is not supposed to be music. Just because this is a music box, it doesn't necessarily mean the sounds we are hearing are music. Look at that. The smile vanished from Graydon's lips as soon as I said it. I'm on the right lines here. I must be. Making deductions based on how people react to what you say. You're acting just like Hurley, Runo. The sounds we are hearing aren't necessarily music. Well, now that you have told us what they are not, I'm sure the court would like to hear what they are. Do enlighten us, my Nipponese friend. Well, surely you have an idea in mind, because if not, it will be the death of your ill-formed argument. Exactly. The music box is clearly broken. Refusing to accept that fact is pure foolishness. They've got me. I don't know what the answer is yet. Bruno? I've just examined the music box very thoroughly, and I'm fairly certain that it's not broken at all. Really? Really, the way it's been made, it can only produce a single note anyway. Thank you, Iris. Alright, well, if the music box isn't broken, it must mean that the sound it's producing has some significance that isn't musical. Could it be? Is that what these sounds are? Something's just struck me, Runo. I feel like recently, in the past, a few hours even, I've heard another sound very much like the one this music box makes. Yes, it's a familiar sound. Actually, Iris, I was just thinking exactly the same thing. I'm going to have to press the defense for an answer. If your assertion is that the sound produced by this music box is not in fact music at all, then what the devil is it, counsel? All the evidence we've seen so far, all the testimony we've heard, it's all pointing to one single answer now. The prosecution demands that my learned Nipponese friend presents proof now. Tangible proof of this latest wild speculation. Alright then. This could be the best chance I'm going to get to fight back in this trial. And if I'm right, it's going to join all the dots together. The evidence that explains the true nature of the sounds on this music box disc is... Okay. Ist... What? Wie bestätige ich jetzt, dass das Morsecode ist? Also wenn es wirklich Morsecode ist. Aber ich kann mir nicht... Ich wüsste jetzt nicht, was es sonst sein soll. Wir haben immer noch den Zeitungsartikel bei uns. This morning's paper, which contains an article about government secrets being leaked to foreign agencies. Worum ging es hier nochmal? Here's a sensational story lower down the front page as well. Look. Ministry Mall. Classified secrets may have been leaked overseas from Ministry of Justice. For a 10-year-old, Iris certainly has her finger on the pulse of world news. It's about secret communications between Great Britain and its allies. Apparently they are being intercepted by hostile nations. Communications are being intercepted, but how would somebody be doing that? That's the question, isn't it? I've come up with 3 different possible methods so far. Are you looking for a new career now? No, of course not. I wonder, perhaps this is what Lord Strongheart was talking about yesterday. Yes, it could be, and it could explain why he has Grexy running from pillar to post at the moment. Das wäre eine Möglichkeit, das zu leaken, oder? Ich gehe da jetzt mit, weil ich habe ansonsten würde mir nichts anderes einfallen, was wir haben in der Gerichtsakte, was uns helfen könnte. Das ist die einzige Möglichkeit, das zu beweisen. Today's paper, Counsel. The headline is Pawnbroker perishes in pig purse blunder. Hardly supportive of your cause. No, my lord. I was hoping you would look a little further down the page. Further down? Ministry mole. Classified secrets may have been leaked overseas from Ministry of Justice. Yes, this is a very serious matter being investigated at the highest level, I understand. I have heard that international transmissions along supposedly secure lines are somehow being intercepted and leaked to various other countries. And presumably those transmissions are in the form of wire telegrams. Of course. Juror number 5, your input, please. Oh, me, sir? Whatever is the matter? You told the court before that you worked at the same communication station as Mr. Graydon, did you not? Yes, that's correct. And the particular station where you work deals with government communications and newspaper reports? Oh, yes, we are not your run-of-the-mill communication station at all. Our work is extremely important. Then tell me, is this not a very familiar sound? You don't mean to say, is it... That's right, madam. It bears more than a passing resemblance to the sound made by your telegraph machine as you tap it. I believe it's called Morse code. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but when it comes to leaking telegrams from government departments, there could be nobody more perfectly placed than a highly skilled communications officer. Are you suggesting that the music box contains stolen government secrets in Morse code? Please, everyone, order. But this is high treason, counsel, deserving of capital punishment. Too much new vocabulary. What is this treason and what is capital punishment? The sorts of words I would half expect you to know. For our sovereign government's confidential information, hostile nations would surely pay almost any price. Yes, and on that night 2 months ago, that was the very negotiation that was taking place inside the omnibus. But in the end, McGillet perished, and the all-important disc lay unclaimed in the pawnbrokery. My word. In which case, whoever stole that information in the first place must surely have been beside himself with worry. Because if the disc were to be discovered before it found its way out of the country, it would reveal an act of high treason punishable by death. So the culprit had no choice but to retrieve it. In order to do that, he would have to gain entry to the pawnbrokery illegally in the middle of the night. Because the article left behind by Mr. McGillet would incriminate him too much if it got into the wrong hands. Isn't it right, Mr. Graydon? You think I've been stealing government secrets? Preposterous, absolutely preposterous. So in response to the defense accusations, you claim complete innocence, do you? Well, of course I do. I've had to stand here in silence while that pretentious foreign lawyer has been prattling away. Then by all means, counter the charges, sir. The prosecution demands the witness testifies in response to the accusations brought by the defense. Delighted, I'm sure. The witness is reminded that the crime under scrutiny in this trial is the murder of the pawnbroker, Mr. Winniebank. That being a most flagitious offense for which the law of this land sanctions a capital punishment. But the heinous act of high treason is no less serious a crime. I urge you to bear that in mind as you testify, Mr. Graydon. So then, let us You gotta let us have a rabbit and pork air, Governor. We got things to say. I beg your pardon. Who do you think you are? Name's Nash Skulkin. Occupation is professional berry. Name's Ringo Skulkin, but we ain't berries enough to sell out our motherland. That's right. We are what they call, the Three Skulkin Brothers. Bad timing, fellas. Very bad timing. Okay. Dann legen wir mal los. A mere communications officer couldn't possibly steal confidential government information. Besides, the sounds produced by that music box aren't even Morse code. It was some low-class brickmaker negotiating with McGilded anyway, was it not? I have no relation to the man. Look, all we done is break into the Gov the other night like what he told us to do. If we had known there was doggy government secrets involved, we wouldn't have touched it. Mr. Skulkin. One Mr. will do, Governor. What's up? Do I take it that you now admit to the crime? That on the night in question you did indeed gain entry to the premises illegally? And moreover, you did so as a party of three in collaboration with Mr. Graydon here? We did, Goof, we did. Quieten down, please. What say you to that, Mr. Graydon? I have no idea what these two ruffians are referring to. You little rotter getting us mixed up in all this monkey business. You never said nothing about no governor's secrets. It was supposed to be a straight-up job. And what about the geezer whose shop it was, huh? Poor old bloke didn't have to die, did he? Nice to know who your friends are. Whatever these men say, I deny the accusations. Indeed. Well, I certainly wasn't expecting this little music box to become so significant in the proceedings. However, as it has, I will admit it into the court record as evidence. Okay. Dann würde ich mir gerne einmal die Musicbox angucken. See how the 4 McGilded disc sits in a music box the man deposited at Winniebank's? It couldn't be a more perfect fit. But there's no question, Jen. The disc was designed to be played in this music box. Yet, despite that, the sound it produces are neither musical nor do they appear to have any meaning. It just doesn't make any sense. I wonder if perhaps there's more to this music box than meets the eye. Maybe we haven't discovered all its secrets yet. What is it, Bruno? I've just noticed something about this music box. It looks like the bottom of it opens up as well. Oh, you're right. Well, come on then. What are you waiting for? Let's open it. Alright then, here goes. Look at that. There's another movement on the underside. So does that mean you can set another disc to play back on this side? Yes, I think so. And it looks like the two movements are linked together. They are linked? So if you had two discs, they would both play back at the same time. Ah, also braucht man 2 Discs, den Code zu entschlüsseln? Who would have thought there would be a second movement on the underside of the box? And this movement is like the other one. The comb's teeth are all the same length. So this movement also only produces a single tone like the other one? Yes, it must do. Except that the length of the teeth on the two combs isn't the same. So the single tone produced by this movement will be different to the single tone we've already heard. Basically, each movement can only produce a single note, but the notes they produce are different. Music box that can only play 2 notes. Okay. Dann gucken wir mal. Also. Officer couldn't possibly steal government information. Besides, the sound produced by that music box aren't even Morse code. Okay, und da würde ich jetzt... Dadurch, dass ich jetzt weiß, dass diese Box 2 Seiten hat, stimme ich da nicht mit überein. To anyone with a brain, that would be blatantly apparent on listening to that music box for even a few seconds. Of course. Surely it can't be that my learned friend is unfamiliar with Morse code. He looks genuinely shocked at my ignorance. I would be more than happy to demonstrate the basics for you, sir. A lesson here in court? Morse code is a continuous series of 2 distinct notes. Tones, you say? Yes, a short dot and a long dash. By combining those in different ways, you construct letters. I see. For example, this is A. And this is B. But when you listen to the sound produced by this music box, you only hear one tone, don't you? But it sounds so similar. The rhythm of it is the same and everything. But there's no discernible meaning to this apparently random sequence of sounds. So your assertion is fundamentally flawed. This is not Morse code. Not yet. Really, you shouldn't be so surprised. What did I tell you? That music box is nothing but a worthless piece of scrap. Perhaps you might consider studying your subject matter before casting aspersions in future. Stop. Nothing to say, but stop. Oh, it's so frustrating, isn't it, Iris? I mean, if the government secrets were somehow being leaked using the music box, so many other things would slot into place so nicely. Would there still be something I haven't considered? Would it really be impossible to use this music box somehow to play back Morse code? There is still every possibility that this music box was instrumental in the leaking of government secrets. That's the belief of the defense, at least. Does it please you in some way, my Nipponese friend, to repeat the same line of argument ad infinitum? It's already been established that to be Morse code 2 tones are required, dots and dashes. Yes, I'm well aware of that. Then what? Well, it would appear the defense has a hypothesis to put forward. You had better present your idea at once, counsel. How do you propose that this music box, which appears to produce only a single tone, could have been used to cipher secret messages into Morse code? Yes, this is it then. Oh, ich hätte erst draufdrücken sollen. Upsi. Ja. Ah, ich dachte, weil ich sie mir ja gerade schon angeguckt habe, dass es reicht. I'm sure you're on the right lines, Runo. There's something about that music box. There has to be. Nein, nicht weiter. Aber ich weiß doch, was... Ich weiß doch. Okay, gut, dann müssen wir... Oder kann ich jetzt... Ne, ich kann jetzt hier nicht die Musicbox vorzeigen, oder? Gut, wir machen das jetzt hier nochmal. Das heißt, ich werde das jetzt hier wieder schnell überspringen. Gut, also ich muss jetzt, wenn ich das hier vorzeige, muss ich dann auch das nochmal öffnen und dann kann ich das vorzeigen. So. Dann überspringen wir das hier. Ja, mir wird das Lachen noch vergehen, mein Freund. Wenn ich mit der fertig bin. So. Also, dann hier nochmal. Es ist möglich. Und dann müssen wir jetzt die zweite Hälfte von der Musikbox öffnen. Ich dachte, wenn ich da drauf drücke, dann präsentiert er das automatisch. Also, dass das dann automatisch aufgeht. So. Also, dann hier auf den Knopf drücken. Und dann das hatten wir auch schon. Also, wir haben das uns ja gerade schon angeguckt. Deswegen werde ich das hier auch ignorieren. Ja. Ich finde es jetzt irgendwie schade, dass ich das jetzt hier nicht überspringen kann, weil ich hatte mir das ja auch schon angehört. So, dann. Jetzt nochmal. Good gracious, what am I looking at here? Another movement on the underside of the music box? It appears, my lord, that the two movements are linked together. In other words, you can put two discs in this music box, and the sounds of both will play back at the same time. Good heavens. As the court has heard, Morse code comprises of two tones, a short dot and a long dash. With a second disc in place, this music box could be used to generate Morse code and convey a message. This is beyond a joke. I'm sorry. This poor excuse for a lawyer has absolutely no evidence to support his claims. So, of course, if my learned friend were able to present the court with the second disc, that would be another matter. Well, I can't at the moment. And may I remind the court that, as the witness has pointed out, he was not the one in the omnibus with McGilded 2 months ago striking a deal over the disc or discs. Indeed, that was Mr. Mason, the brickmaker. Exactly, I had nothing whatsoever to do with it. Though it has holes, I must admit the argument presented by the defense has much promise. I believe the cross-examination should continue. The link between Graydon and the victim of the omnibus case must be there somewhere, but I haven't found it yet. Oh dear, it looks like you need to give your argument more strength, Bruno. You will reiterate your testimony if you please, Mr. Graydon. If I must, so I maintain exactly what I did at the start of this pointless cross-examination. Okay, good. It was some low-class brickmaker negotiating with McGilded anyway, was it not? I have no relation to the man. So 2 months ago on that omnibus, McGilded killed the brickmaker and stole the disc. Mr. Mason was a single man with almost nothing to his name. It seems he lived in an artisan quarter some years ago, but people there remember little about him. That doesn't make much sense though, does it? How would a humble brickmaker come to acquire secret government information? How indeed? There must have been somebody else involved behind the scenes in all of this. Somebody who acquired the disc and gave it to Mr. Mason in order to take it to the meeting with McGilded and negotiate a deal. Dear me. You may have it in for me, sir, but I assure you, I have far more class than that. An old brickmaker from an artisan quarter and this well-to-do communications officer. If only I could find some evidence to link the two of them together. If you have nothing more to add on that note, let us return to the witness testimony. Like Mr. Graydon told you to do, you mean? That's it, yeah. Who else, huh? Silly me thought he was just popping over for a matter after all them years, but that rather had a dodgy job for us. Ash? Let me stop you there, Mr. Skulkin. After all them years, you say? Do you mean to tell me that Mr. Graydon is an acquaintance of yours? We are the sociable kind of berries, you know? Sure, let's say Graydon's an old China. Is something wrong, Mr. Skulkin? No, the other Mr. Skulkin. Who would sue me? When your brother was testifying just now, he said something that seemed to cause you to react. Oh, I was just remembering the old days, that's all. We used to have a right old laugh together way back when. Together with Mr. Graydon, you mean? Yeah, with Ash. I mean, you look at him now in his fancy whistle and flute, and you wouldn't Adam and Eve it. But when he was younger, he was from the poor part of town, just like us. Is that so? But he was always a leery one. He had the brains, he had the savvy. Always coming up with smart ideas like what would never have gone through our heads. Gore blimey, ain't that the truth? Remember Milverton and Skulkin's milk run? That was a corker, huh? Save it until after the trial. You reminiscing has no place in this courtroom. And neither does your fruit. Oi, the GC asked us the question, didn't he? And we was answering. Yeah, we ain't done nothing wrong. Nevertheless, the court is not prepared to accompany you on your trip down memory lane. Counsel, can we turn our attention back to the testimony, please? I don't know, could that sentimental story be relevant somehow? Sure. My lord. Yes, counsel. The brother's last sentimental statement could hold vital information relating to this case. Very well, counsel. I will permit the brothers to supplement their testimony with the detail. Briefly, I hasten to add. Say no more, Skulkins never skulkin. Okay, Milverton and Skulkin Milgran. Gordon the days. I'm sure I'm going to regret asking, but what exactly was that? Some kind of business? Just a little scheme we had going back when we was youngsters. A bit of fun, really. Delivering fresh milk to the locals. That's what it was all about. That sounds alarmingly legitimate. There must be a catch. I suppose since we're here, I should ask them to elaborate, but on what? The business model? The business name? Business name? So, this business was just a bit of fun, you say, and it was just yourselves and Mr. Graydon involved? Yeah, that's it. Milverton and Skulkin's milk run, was it? Yeah, that's it. And where did the Milverton part come from? Oh, right, I thought a clever clocks like you would have worked that one out. Enough of this. How much longer are we expected to listen to this drivel? Let me guess, you don't accept anything these two witnesses are saying. Ja, weil Milverton, das ist, glaube ich, der Nachname von Mason. Also von dem, haben wir den hier drin? Oh, wir haben den hier gar nicht drin. Moment, dann gucken wir uns... Ja, ich verdrücke mich hier die ganze Zeit. Susatos Zusammenfassung. Und zwar, hier, Name Mason Milverton. Ja, das heißt eigentlich, Ashs richtiger Name ist Ashley Milverton. Und ich schätze mal, dass dann sein Sohn ihn dazu gebracht hat, diese Disc mitzunehmen, vielleicht sogar herzustellen und an McGilde zu verkaufen. Tell me, why is it that it was only at the mention of the name Milverton that you decided to interject? Because well... It weren't the epics of Umstead that one came from. Yeah, his old man was struggling for money so much his wife walked out on him. She took the name Graydon then, see? But Ash will always be Milverton to us. Milverton. So, that used to be your surname, did it? Of course not. This is all bunkin'. I've been a Graydon since I was born. Do you really think you can rely on that testimony of these two thieves, You're a communications officer attached to the civil service. As such, your personal details will have been thoroughly checked at the time of your appointment. It would be a very simple matter indeed to subpoena those records, Mr. Graydon. Well, it would appear that Mr. and Mrs. Skulkon's testimony has been reliable for once. You were born Ashley Milverton, then. Is that correct? Very well, yes. So Ashley Graydon was once Ashley Milverton. That information could change things, and could turn out to be extremely important. Okay. All of a sudden, we seem to be up to our necks in a serious matter of national security. Also, all this talk about interception of secret government messages is still just conjecture at this stage. It would explain a number of things, so wouldn't it? The negotiation Ginny overheard on the omnibus 2 months ago and the break-in at Windybanks. But the trouble is, it wasn't Mr. Graydon in the omnibus with Mr. McGilded. No, that was Mr. Mason, the brickmaker, who was so horrible murdered. Only there was some link between the two men somehow. I know, but Mr. Graydon's testimony seems to be as watertight as ever. I wonder if the key to us making headway with the cross-examination here could be those two brothers. Okay, aber jetzt ist die Frage. Ich weiß nicht, ich habe halt nirgendwo einen Beweis gerade. So this is newspaper headline. So is this newspaper headline accurate? Government communications are being intercepted. Weil ich habe jetzt zwar die Info abgedatet, dass er so hieß, aber ich habe jetzt in seiner Zeugenaussage habe ich keinen Satz, glaube ich, womit ich wo ich ihn dann sozusagen präsentieren kann, dass er der Sohn ist von Mr. Milverton. How could I possibly know? What do you mean by that? Any important government communications are handled by high-level officers, by specialists. General members of staff in the station where I work would never be entrusted with sensitive information. Oh no, stop, must say something, stop. Let me guess. Juror number 5. The irregular communication station officers aren't as lowly as you're being led to believe. A team of us are responsible for setting up and testing the telegraphs used by the ministry, and Mr. Graydon is the team leader. That's fascinating. Graydon is highly skilled operator, stop, currently in presence of idle, stop. So you had access to the equipment used for this confidential communications, Mr. Graydon. Well, what of it? The transmissions are always made behind closed doors, so they can't be heard. And in any case, all messages are sent and ciphered. Normal employees couldn't possibly understand them. Mr. Graydon regularly attends meetings with ministry technicians and the ministry communications team. He assists them in ensuring that there are no errors in important international communications, and he's received the top prize at the cipher cracking convention 5 years in a row now. That's fascinating. Graydon is highly skilled operator, stop, currently in presence of idle, stop. Well, your idol would appreciate if you would keep your mouth shut. She should really pick her idols more carefully. I tell you, this lawyer's accusations are completely unfounded. Okay, ja, aber das sind wir jetzt schon durchgegangen. It was some low-class brickmaker. Anyway, was it not? I have no relation to the man. Ja gut, okay, das wäre jetzt... Aber kann ich da jetzt ihn vorzeigen? Weil er ist ja der Sohn eigentlich. Aber das ist jetzt wieder dasselbe. Das hatten wir ja schon. Weil er muss ja diese Disk... Er muss es ja dann gewesen sein, der die Disk eigentlich gemacht hat oder besorgt hat. Oder zumindest die Infos, die dann auf der Disk waren. Ich würde das jetzt einfach mal gerne probieren. Ich würde jetzt... Okay, also entweder ich kann die Notes, also die Notizen vorzeigen. Oder... Ich kann auch gar nicht auf Leute gerade switchen. Wieso kann ich das denn nicht machen? Ich versuche das jetzt einfach mal. Mr. Ashley Milverton. Tell me, why did you try to hide your former name from the court? Because I haven't gone by that name for years. It means nothing to me. No, I don't think that's a real explanation at all. The truth is, you had a reason to hide that name. Explain yourself, please, counsel. I have here the notes from the omnibus case, my lord, and as we all know, the victim, the man who we now understand to have been negotiating with McGilded... Yes, Mr. Mason, the Brickmaker. That's right, only Mason wasn't his surname at all, it was his given name. His full name was Mason Milverton. Milverton? Do you mean to say, saints alive? Mr. Ashley Milverton, is it not the case that the brickmaker, Mr. Mason Milverton, was your father? I don't... As I believe I mentioned earlier, your family history will have been thoroughly checked when you joined the civil service, and it really would take no time at all for the court to subpoena those records. The truth is you have been illegally acquiring highly confidential government information and selling it on to McGilded in collaboration with your father. The new facts and evidence unveiled by the cross-examination of this witness all come together to reveal the truth. The truth, you say? That you collaborated with your father, Mr. Mason Milverton, in illegal dealings with Magnus McGilded. By dint of this music box, you mean, counsel? Yes, stealing information being sent in secret government communications and selling it on to McGilded. Mr. Graydon concocted this elaborate scheme of using 2 music boxes to encode the information, as presumably a safety measure against the information falling into the wrong hands. And a very effective one. I shouldn't have given the scheme any credence whatsoever. But the deal with McGilded went sour, and the brickmaker met his end. Yes, but before he was arrested, McGilded managed to temporarily dispose of the stolen disc at the pawnbroker. Then, having learned of the situation, you appeared at Winniebank's 2 days ago, in an attempt to recover the 2 articles McGilded had placed in pawn there. But that attempt failed. One of the discs was seized by the police, and the other you never found. So that same night, you enlisted the help of the Skulkin brothers and broke into the pawnbrokery. This time, determined to recover the second disc. Are you suggesting that the second disc was inside the music box? We never knew nothing about that. On the night that Mr. Winniebank was killed. The intruder to the pawnbrokery touched one item and one item alone, the music box. As rather ingeniously demonstrated using the 2 prints from the security camera indeed. So, the question that naturally begs answering is this: why was only that one article disturbed? The answer is obvious, because it contained the second disc, which the intruder was desperate to retrieve. Since, if it were to fall into the hands of the police, it would be proof of high treason. Well, Mr. Graydon, do you deny that all of this actually began on that fateful night 2 months ago? I refuse to accept any of this nonsense. Sir, there appears to be blood seeping through the sleeve of your jacket. What? 2 nights ago, We know that 3 shots were fired at the scene of the crime in Winniebank's pawnbrokery. 1 took the life of the pawnbroker himself. 1 struck the... ich habe nicht nachgeguckt, wie man das Wort ausspricht. Den Beutel. Around Mr. Shum's waist. Die Tasche mit den Fiolen. And the final bullet struck the calendar on the wall of the shop, having first pierced the arm of one of the intruders. Aber das ist tatsächlich komisch. Ich habe noch nie das Wort Beutel oder schon ewig nicht mehr das Wort Beutel oder Tasche in Englisch aussprechen müssen. Eigentlich eines der simpleren Wörter. Mr. Graydon, that wound on your arm that you seem to be trying to hide, it's a bullet wound, isn't it? He got you, no? Now, me old China. Time to call it quits and grog, I reckon. Don't acknowledge my presence, sir, under any circumstances whatsoever. Those were my terms, remember, and I paid you handsomely to comply. Clearly, I was a fool to think I could trust some common backslump thieves. Fine, I admit it. I was there in Winniebank's that night. I paid this pair 10 guineas to accompany me. And as you've noticed, I sustained an injury in the course of my adventure. But that is all. I admit to nothing more. Stealing government secrets, negotiating with Mr. McGildet. As God is my witness, I'm sure I recall nothing of the sort. He's not going to go down without a fight. Not until I can show hard evidence, I suppose. Nevertheless, the defense has now established a crucial fact. Which is... well, we know that 1 bullet was fired from each of the 2 firearms we have in evidence. The bullet from the Skulkin Brothers gun hit the Tasche around Mr. Shum's waist. And the bullet from Mr. Winniebank's gun clearly must have been the one that caught Mr. Graydon on the arm. Indeed, it must. We can rule out the possibility that the man shot himself. And that leads us to only one conclusion. Mr. Winniebank was shot by a 3rd gun, which can only have been fired by the 3rd intruder. That's right, Mr. Graydon. The only person who could possibly have shot Mr. Winniebank that night is you. You little upstart. You made a grave mistake when you summoned me here. What's that supposed to mean? Yes, as you rightly say, I was there at the pawnbrokers. I did my best to hide the fact, naturally. I had no intention of ruining the distinguished career I would build for myself at the communication station. But did the thought never cross your mind? Did you never consider the possibility? What do you mean? What thought? What possibility? The possibility that if I was there at the scene, I may have witnessed a crucial moment. You see... this makes me a key witness in this case, and I have my hands firmly around the neck of your client. Are you suggesting... I saw it all. I saw the very moment that pickpocket girl pointed the gun at the poor defenseless pawnbroker and shot him. Das ist selbstverständlich eine Lüge. It would seem we are finally entering the last act of this theatrical trial. Mr. Graydon. Yes. I trust you're fully aware of the implications here. If it is shown that your claim is false, you will have incriminated yourself as the killer. Understand fully. Then I must ask you to give your formal testimony once more. You will explain to the court precisely what you saw at the moment the defendant allegedly shot the victim. Nothing would give me greater pleasure. While these ruffians were jostling with the broker, I was still near the entrance to the shop. When Winniebank threw Nash over the counter, I felt a sharp pain in my arm. I pursued the man, but he shut himself in the storeroom. I could see him through the peephole in the door, though. The accused in a black coat shot the man in the back as he was trying to flee to safety. I saw the blood splatter all over the wretched girl. Then she tossed the gun out of the pee-hole, so I picked it up and made my escape. Okay, aber das kann doch nicht sein, weil Gina hat... Warte. Aber Gina hatte doch die Waffen von Mr. Winniebank in der Hand. Hä? Wieso soll die denn diese komische dritte Waffe weggeworfen haben? Und dann Mr. Winniebanks Waffe in die Hand genommen haben? Das macht doch gar keinen Sinn. Good gracious, this is quite extraordinary testimony. You claim, sir, under oath, to have clearly seen the defendant pulling the trigger. It wasn't my intention to testify in this way. But neither is it my intention to be found guilty of a murder I didn't commit. So you see, my hand has been forced. I tell the truth now as an act of self-preservation. The truth. Until now, the prosecution was completely unaware of these details. Yes, well, sorry about that. Having shot me in the arm, the pawnbroker was then shot in the back by the accused. And as I said, she was showered in his blood. You say the blood spattered over the accused's coat. Are you sure on that point? Oh yes, quite sure. All over the black overcoat that pickpocket girl was wearing at the time. Really? If her coat could somehow be shown to harbor vestiges of blood, that would be conclusive evidence here. Wir wissen ja schon, dass da Blut drauf ist, aber es ist nicht das Blut von Mr. Winniebank. Such an investigation is entirely possible, my lord. Graydon weiß, dass das Blut von seinem Vater auf diesem Mantel ist. Only very recently, a German scientist has developed a technique to identify human blood. So here's to true science, not some amateurish detective's dubious foray into the world of chemistry. There's nothing dubious about Hurley's work. His ideas are all sound. Ideas are no use to us here. In science, as in law, theories must be proven before they stand. In Germany, the technique has already been employed in the courtroom as the basis of evidence. Scotland Yard has a small quantity of the chemical reagent used. With your lordship's permission, we could shatter all vestiges of doubt within minutes. This doesn't look good, Runo. Why not? Well, we know, don't we, that there's blood all over the front of Ginny's coat. If they tested with their chemicals... Oh, help. You're right. I was forgetting what happened yesterday. Don't move, Ginny. I'm going to shoot. But that's not Mr. Winniebank's blood. That stain is from 2 months ago. That's Mr. Mason's blood from when he was stabbed by McGilded, who was wearing the coat at the time. My lord, the defense objects to test proposed by the prosecution. Overruled. Lord von Zieks, make it so at once. With pleasure, my lord. And while we await the results, the defense may proceed with the cross-examination. Once they find that blood on the overcoat, Gina will be... Counsel! Yes, my lord. Your cross-examination. Of course, my lord. If this cross-examination doesn't go well, if I don't manage to uncover some decisive evidence or a really compelling clue now, I have a very bad feeling about the outcome of this trial. Okay, the moment of the shooting. Aber bevor wir uns das hier nun hören werden, gibt es hier einen Cut. Ich bedanke mich ganz herzlich fürs Zusehen. Hoffe, ihr hattet Spaß. Und wenn ihr mögt, sehen wir uns sehr, sehr gerne im nächsten Part wieder. Bis dahin. Ciao.